But if that child doesn't want to move, that is not normal. We're movement animals. So that's a red flag. And the two words are reflexive health. And I thought, oh, I wouldn't use that again. Movement development. You bump your head against this, flying in the opposite direction and send it in the opposite direction to that. Oh my goodness. Bearing in mind, the brain isn't mature until, they used to say age 25. Some are now saying 26. Some are saying 27.
For men, it's 30, as they say.
So, well, that explains a lot. No, I retract.
Welcome to the Visionary Podcast, where we discuss science, medicine, physical health, and mental well-being. If you could set one new standard practice in sports medicine, what would it be?
Well, this is a proper, deep, important thing. It is, I feel there's a vision in me or a mission, and I can't stop talking about this. I want to write another book and do fun stuff with running. And I see people struggle unnecessarily, I think, because the help that is coming to them is too high up. It's too far beyond what their system is capable of, because the foundational, innate, fundamental movement patterns are a mess, but nobody's looking there. It's the easiest thing to look for. It's the simplest thing because it's how we all started.
Do you mean to say that the industry tends to jump to advanced interventions before checking the basics?
Yes, essentially. So they're missing why are they moving like that? It isn't because it needs stretching or strengthening. They're moving like that because maybe the brain has no awareness of this side and is constantly driven to this side, or they can't rotate to this side because the cerebellum is not, the timing of everything is a bit slow in that area of that cerebellum. So in order to remain safe, it keeps the person to the other side. But these invisible elements of movement are contained in the world of infanthood because they're considered, it seems like they're considered there and they're known, but then there's a cutoff point. But we know, we've already discussed that there isn't a cutoff point ever. And you can organize that which has never been organized whenever, and you can reorganize something that got disorganized that had been previously organized. If it's our fundamental innate movement patterning, we can speak to it. And if we can just make sure that that is done first, as a matter of course, a bit like an MOT, you go in with a car, doesn't matter how fancy your car is. It needs to have brakes that work, a steering wheel that has no play, lights that flick on and off when you tell them to, and a fuel tank that can feed whatever it needs into the engine. And I'm sure it needs lots more in an MOT. I'm not familiar with MOTs, but it's that kind of thing. There is an absolute baseline of investigation that needs to be first, not last. People come to me, they tell me they're a medical mystery. Well, they are if your start point is complex and way up there and requires surgery. But does it require surgery? Or if it does require surgery, are they going to heal well if their innate movement patterning for that particular thing that caused the deterioration in the first place still remains deteriorated? I do think it's partly why they don't want to do a hip replacement until you're old enough to not need another one, because you'll wear it out. How do you wear out a hip replacement? I know a guy who wore out a titanium hip in 2 years. How? Why? It's that whatever was in their system that wore it out in the first place is still there until you find what it is and deal with it. And if it's something to do with movement development, it's easy because a baby does it. Yes. In the first instance, we do all of this as tiny people.
Hi, I'm Hala, your host today. If you're enjoying what you see, please hit that lovely subscribe button. It will mean a lot to us. Or maybe a small podcast now, but with your support, we can build this channel together, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being part of it. I think you spilled the beans a little bit about your next big idea when you said you're writing another book. Tell us about it.
So it was, again, so this is not complete. Nothing is complete. My book is the beginning. Okay, let's start here. I reference what I've just spoken about in it, but it's when I wrote this. So it was published 7.5 years ago now, and even then it was, I think I'll just mention it. I'll just keep mentioning it in passing because I'm not quite sure anybody's going to listen yet. And I used a term when I recently reread it for Audible, and there's only 2 words in the whole book that I would change, which I was really thrilled with. And the 2 words are reflexive health. And I thought, I wouldn't use that again. Movement development. It's movement development. And there's no age group. It's just our movement development. And so I reference it in here. And my next book, I want to bring together everything in a little easy, happy, condensed version of everything I know, the top 20 ways to make running easier, faster for less effort, more efficient, using everything I know to date. But it's not regurgitating everything I know, it's everything I know in the context of running and making running efficient.
Yes.
So that for me is just a joyous project. But the mission is a sporty child will just automatically be in all the sporty teams and they'll do lots of sports.
Yes.
And a non-sporty child won't be picked for the teams, won't be involved in that. PE is, it's hateful and they'll do something else. And it almost feels like you're, by virtue of where that child has got to in their movement development, bearing in mind the brain isn't mature until, they used to say age 25. Some are now saying 26. Some are saying 27.
For men, it's 30, they say.
So, well, that explains a lot. No, I retract. I joke. I'm just joking. So it is the brain development of these children is being missed. So it's, have you ticked all the milestones? Okay, tick, tick, tick. Yes, normal milestones, normal, lovely. But if that child doesn't want to move, that is not normal. We're movement animals. So that's a red flag. Why aren't we going in and checking the absolute basics? I call them non-negotiables. I see it so often. I created online courses because it was people were coming to me after a long waiting list with their chronic pain. And it was simple, non-negotiable movement development stuff. Not difficult to understand, not difficult to reorganize. But the information isn't out there because it's contained in the box for the teeny tiny people.
Yeah, we talk about children again. I think it was last week when I was talking to Olivia, who's waiting now outside with your lovely husband, having a chat waiting for us. And I suggested to do a play date. She said, Mommy, we don't call it. She's 9. She said, Mommy, we don't call it a play date now. What do you call it? A visit. Okay, a visit. What do you do at break time at school? Don't you run around and play? No. We're no longer children. We chit-chat.
Oh, wow.
And I felt so sad. What do you mean? You no
Wow.
longer play and run around freely and do this?
Wow.
No. They act like teenagers. They chit-chat.
So in the intake form, when people come to the clinic, I ask what their occupation is, not what they do for a living, but what occupies most of the hours of your day in terms of what you are doing. Are you moving? Are you sitting? So they'll say an accountant, and I say, okay, you're a professional sitter. So it gives me a flavor of the amount of movement, and we seem to be training in this part of the world, we're training our children to sit still and be quiet from ridiculously early ages. In the Scandinavian countries, it's later, thank goodness. In the Southern Hemisphere, sports isn't allowed to be done with shoes until teenage years, which is, so there are certain pockets of the world that seem to be so much more logical, so much more commonsensical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we seem to applaud sitting, not moving, and being quiet whilst listening to instructions coming in.
Yeah, I was really, I don't know how to describe it, dismayed.
Dismayed, it's a
when
good word.
in reception, when that was the norm. Olivia is a sucker for authority, so she was okay with sitting down and listening. But I mean, the consequences is that you would act like a proper monkey at home. But when I talk to the teacher, that's what they do in reception. They instruct the children to sit quietly and listen. Whoa. And here is a story that I've never told before. We come from Leeds, West Yorkshire, and there, I mean, where we were living, there weren't lots of nice primary schools. So we thought, okay, we'll pay for Olivia to go to grammar school. And there was like the interview with a child. They meet the child and talk to the child and all. 2 days before, she was unwell at the hospital, something. So we went there, the interview, and the lady took her by the hand into a different room to talk to her and all the rest of that. But I said to the lady, the teacher, I'm so sorry, she was unwell 2 days ago and she might not be at her best, kind of thing. So she took her, she came back and she said, she's amazing, she's brilliant. I was like, really? Even in her best state, she's not that amazing. Oh, really? Okay, well, what happened? The best education that can money afford in Yorkshire, she sat still, the teacher said, she sat still, listened carefully, and she did what she was told. I'm not paying money for that, love.
Yeah, I speak, when I see adults, I say, when last you went on a swing? When last you made yourself dizzy? These are elements of movement that are spontaneous in a child and then it's almost like they're crushed out of us. They become forgotten because sitting still is the prerequisite.
You've also said that much of what you do should be standard, conventional, and widespread. But it's not. So what's holding the movement industry back?
I wonder, I've got a consultant friend who is a clinical lead in his field. And he said to me that the problem is we are rewarded, as in promoted, by our specialization. So the only way we can climb up the career ladder is by specializing. So I specialize in knees or sacrums or backs or shoulders or whatever it might be. And we are anatomized. So we become body parts because of this person does this and this person does this and this person does this physical side and this person does this mental side. And we just separate. It's jobs, and which is absolutely fine. And then there needs to be somebody else that comes along and brings all of that expertise together again and makes wholeness within the separateness. That's what's missing. I don't know how to get there, but I think that at least can we just get our ducks in a row. We now know about movement development not being just for the infant. We know this now. Sadly, the NFL players, with all of their upsetness and their damage, and the film being made of it, there's 2 films actually being made of the same thing. They now know that our precious heads and the insides of them are so precious that we don't want to have rugby tackling until a certain age. Apparently, when your head's 14 years old, maybe you can cope with bashing of heads together. because I think you can now, it's non-contact until a certain age, but then apparently you can still carry on. A football, when I worked with the first pro footballer, I was astonished at the weight of an actual football. You bump your head against this, flying in the opposite direction and send it in the opposite direction to that. Oh my goodness. And they know about this, but they can't ban heading because the sport loves it, but the brain does not. So but if you go in with your eyes wide open, so if you're an adult, you think, no, do you know what? I'm going to head the ball. But children are doing this and they don't know, and they're not going in with their eyes wide open, because that fundamental level of understanding of bodies innately, just the innateness, I know I keep repeating myself, but it's all it is. It's a DNA-driven timeline. It's fundamental, foundational movement patterns. They start reflexively. They morph into a level of, I can make the shape, but I'm not held ransom to it. I can make other shapes. I can make that shape, and I can make complicated shapes. But it started with the reflexive shape, and we need to make sure that we can make that shape and not have to make it. It's not even difficult. Yes. And we need to start there. And we're missing, it's being missed because it's being it's just another body part, but it's an age.
Amazing. That's brilliant. Oh. Helen Hall, where can we find you, please?
Well, I am now better. The last couple of years on social media has been, I'm a bit of a dinosaur and it's been a struggle, but I am now on Insta. I even know my Insta name now.
Wow.
Oh my goodness me. I know my YouTube. I know my YouTube one. So the YouTube is at the PFM Way.
Yes, of course.
And I'm trying to have longer conversations. I've been trying to help on Insta, but I know the data. The attention span, on average, 23 seconds. I'm trying to help in less than 60 seconds. I don't allow my reels to be longer than 60 seconds because I know that not everybody will stay long enough. I hope to be helpful, but the attention span is so small.
That's very, very sad, I think.
But I want to help because it's not difficult to help. Some cases are very complex, but so many aren't. And it's just sorting out, okay, just check it off. If it's fine, you've spent, I don't know, half an hour checking to make sure everything's fine.
Yes.
And how difficult can it be? And it can be done at schools. And then to go back to that point, the child who doesn't move doesn't need to be that same person their entire lives. You can wake up whatever element of movement development is keeping them not moving. It can be woken up. So then they become part of whatever team they get drawn to. Yeah. And it was a discombobulation within their system, a discoordination within their system that was holding them back. Not them, I don't want to move. Movement was challenging for them, so they didn't move. But if they're in the movement development timeline, why was it challenging for them? It's not difficult to change. And the brain scientists tell us the sky is the limit. We expect greatness.
Brilliant. We will add all your social media links and, of course, your website in the description. Helen, you have this extraordinary gift to make what most people find difficult or challenging into something simple. You have helped thousands of patients when they felt stuck in chronic pain, not by coming up with quick fixes, but by enabling them to rediscover what their bodies already knew. And you reminded us today that movement isn't just about running, it's how we go through life with intuition, curiosity, and also optimism, because optimism is such an underrated value. Your work is a masterclass in challenging old, outdated beliefs and also empowering all of us to find our intuition again. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.